Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and in this video we are going to be talking about my hands-on time with Doom: The Dark Ages. Now before I go any farther, I do want to say thank you to id Software, Bethesda, and Microsoft. They did cover my travel to and from the event, so thank you all for that one. But this is my thoughts on the preview. They don't have any knowledge of what this video is going to say, so these are my own thoughts. Just wanted to let you guys know they did cover my travel, just so that's clear up front. Hashtags ad sponsored, whatever you want to call it in there. Just wanted to be clear. Now, Doom 2016, id Software brings Doom back into the limelight and absolutely crushes it. Doom Eternal, you go faster, you jump, you platform, you're fighting marauders, which are kicking people's butt. They took the Slayer and took him to the next level. The best way I can describe Doom: The Dark Ages, and they've kind of done this in the marketing already. They said you had Doom, then if you take Doom Eternal, you're like a jet. You're faster, more vertical, whole different thing. Doom: The Dark Ages, they're like a tank. You are more grounded. You are more standing and fighting, which is one of the big things that they've stated, but you really are, because you're going to be using a shield and melee is a bigger focus. And honestly, from the start, one thing I did not expect Doom to do is kick off with like a story cinematic. You have this setup to where the Doom Slayer is controlled by this, I don't know, alien race and spaceships, whatever you want to call it, like a supreme situation being, and then you've got the humans and the demon forces like clashing in what looks to be this castle area. Both the humans and the demons seem to both fear the Slayer. Humans are like, dude, he's too powerful, he's crazy, they're afraid of him. And then you've got the demons, which know he is going to kill them all. He's bad news either way. But the humans actually like basically phone home and say, hey, can we use the Doom Slayer right now? Kind of like a calling in a strike in Call of Duty, but they call up and then they send him down, and that is how you kick off this first mission. But you have like the villain talking to kind of the other demon mages, you've got the humans phoning in, you've got these supreme characters all communicating. I did not expect that in Doom, but I gotta say, their three main pillars are story, exploration, and combat. We're gonna cover all three. Story was the surprise for me, completely honestly, and so far, I don't expect like a God of War or a avowed RPG level of story. But so far, you're kicking off with cutscenes, in your face explanation of what's going on, set in this medieval setting of Doom. It works. It did. And I think it's just going to like make the game be feeling like a more of a complete campaign, as it is only a single player package. There is no multiplayer this time around, which, hey, if multiplayer is not working so great, focus on the one thing, and believe me, they did. But the story out of the gate kind of had me going. So, first mission. We land, and you're going to picture the first mission as a bit more of a tutorial, and you're kind of right. Been a minute since I'd played Doom, so I needed to kind of get my feet back under me and figure out what was going on, get used to the shotgun, have the takedown, like the finishers, so you get your health and your ammo back and all that, kind of working through those kinks. And then you realize, okay, this is going to feel like a little bit more of a linear level, maybe a fork over here, but mostly a pretty standard linear Doom level. But one of the things that stood out from the get-go, outside of the cinematic, which looked good, but then you land in the world and you're going, this place looks amazing. So, I mean, you're picturing medieval castle, you got the dark aesthetics, but it is gorgeous. The guns, the enemies, the world design, it's just crisp and polished, and it looks so good. I mean, if you're playing this thing on a high rig, high refresh rate, and then if you've got maybe a high fidelity, maybe an OLED or on TV with your console, wherever you play this thing, try and play it on the best visual experience that you have available. It looks so good. And for me, this is my experience, not any other previewer, just me. It ran flawlessly. I mean, buttery smooth. It was sitting on some PCs, so you know there's a massive graphics card in there for sure. I wasn't able to check the specs, nor did I ask, honestly, because I forgot. But if you got a decent PC, the nice thing about the id Tech engine is the fact that it runs well on so many things, but I mean, you're bumping up the frame rate cap of 200. It's going to run well. And for me, I didn't have a glitch, an error, not even a hiccup, to be honest, that I really remember noticing. I don't think I crashed once. If I did, it might have been once. And this was 2.5 months before release. So, I mean, if they're polishing tiny little hiccups and bumps in there at this point, I think they're good. But for my personal experience, it was so smooth that it should not be a worry, in my personal opinion. Now, I said the first level, more of a tutorial, setting things up, getting used to guns, getting used to a couple things. There are other levels, and I say other because they're not your standing on the ground levels because they're way different than that, but I'll cover those a little bit later in the preview. But the 4th level, called Siege, that I got to play, different style. Now, instead of being linear, picture a small sandbox. I do not want you to think open world because it is not that. I don't even know if I would call it even an open zone, because the last time I heard open zone used was for Avowed a couple months ago, and that was a pretty extensive zone per area that you went through. They were large, like you'd get lost in those for 20 hours. It is not like that. I finished pretty much everything in this thing in about 1 hour. So it is not that big, but I had 5 different objectives that I was trying to work through. I think it was like 5 demon gates that kind of had to close. The order you face them, the kind of direction you attack them, if you need to veer off the path, come at it from a different angle, you get a little bit more freedom in these levels, and it's just enough freedom, but not like, you know, open world bloat level of way too much, and not like you're doing map markers. If I want to go run after each objectives, they are not that far away. But being as it's kind of like a mini open level, you've got some secrets and hidden nooks and crannies where you might find like an extra health behind a waterfall if you go peer around a corner, or if you know, kind of follow the map and you're like, I haven't been... The map was actually really helpful to check all the boxes because I think I found everything in the level. And there's like, I haven't been down there, so you kind of go around and you figure out there's a ramp to go down, do something underneath. There's a little secret encounter down there. You do that, and you get a currency for your Slayer, and there's quite a few progression systems. We'll talk about those a little bit later, but that exploration led to all those kind of things, and it never felt too big. So they really found a nice balance of, instead of just saying, here are kind of these guided hallways that you work your way through, here's your like sandbox mini level, go tackle all these things you got to do whichever direction you want to do it, and if you find everything in here, cool. If you skip a couple things, probably not going to be a big deal. Have fun how you want to, or just go straight for the objectives and get out. It's up to you. And I think it worked really, really well. It's not too big. If you ever have any fear about them saying it's like the biggest Doom ever, it is not an open world. That is not how this is set up. And I know I'm stressing that. I've literally heard other previewers worry that like, oh, is this going to be too big? It worked. This one level was just about an hour, and I think it was like great size. I had a couple of deaths in there. I told you I found, I think, just about every secret I could. So, I mean, if a level's an hour and it's kind of got an open feel to it, I think they managed to balance whatever size it is just right. I mean, they're in a really good Goldilocks zone to give you a little bit of freedom, but not so much you're like, I don't know what to do next. It's never like that. Not at all. Mostly just like running around staying alive and being like, oh, cool, little secret here. It was a really good balance to the world, and I think it's going to be a kind of a very logical but very well-polished next step for the franchise. It's the best way I can say it. So you've got exploration with these new zones. You've got, and also some of the other encounters I'll talk about. You've got the story focus, which I did not expect, but I'm curious to see how they take that one. And if this is like a 20-hour campaign, awesome. That's going to be fantastic. And maybe there's some DLC later, who knows? But if it's a 20-hour campaign and you've got story in there and you're seeing perspectives from these like high-level beings and also the demons and their leaders, I'm all here for it, because it's going to be a Doom story. But hey, if I feel a little bit more invested in all the things that are happening, I'm in. Random thing I did want to clarify. I have no idea if it's a 20-hour story or not. I was just speculating, just to be clear. Now, when it comes to Doom, we all know the weapons make Doom. The BFG is not the BFG for no reason. It is one of the most iconically rememberable weapons, if that's a word, in probably most gaming. It just, you know, delete the screen. It's kind of amazing. And I gotta tell you, it's not all going to be about the guns this time, but again, I think they found this balance that works extremely well. So there is a similar amount of focus on your shield and your melee options to pair with your traditional strafe and shooting mechanics. So it's everything from the visceral smashing and bashing that comes along with getting up in the demons' faces, which is their whole theme of stand and fight, but paired with fantastically over-the-top Doom weapons that do awesome things, have their own upgrade paths to them, and both are cool. Like, they truly are. Now, probably the main focus of everything, it's that shield. The big chainsaw shield that you saw, probably have seen in previews, you've seen it thrown. It is massively important to a lot of aspects, because not only can you block and deflect, but you can parry, kind of, and deflect at the same time, depending on. And that is a decent mechanic because, as I said, you're the tank, you're on the ground, you're slower, you're a bit more in the enemy's face, especially big ones. But if they jump up in the air and you kind of see this green flashing on them that you can parry them, you throw that shield up and you get that parry stun moment on the enemy and they're like all wobbly. Just absolutely unload on them. And you can do this back and forth where it's like they jump and swing and you parry and then you throw your melee, whatever you're throwing at them, back and forth. It's really fun and feels so visceral when you get some of those melee finishers of knocking off limbs or exploding bodies. It's exactly what you hope Doom is. You're just almost more in the face this time. And the melees have a little bit more variety. So you'll see plenty of projectiles that come your way. Obviously, you want to dodge a lot of them. But if it is a green projectile, whether it is from a tank, an enemy, a dragon we'll get to a little later on, plenty of them is if you have your shield, you can deflect them back. And that will actually do a really good job of either stunning the enemy. If it's from a tank, I've deflected the tank shot and exploded the whole tank in one shot, which feels really good, by the way. You're like, why is the Doom guy able to deflect? I don't know if I really care. I deflected the tank shot and I blew up a tank. It feels awesome. That's kind of where you're at in the moment of playing Doom. Every time something cool happens, you're just like, Doom guy's a badass. That's all I know. But also when you're trading blows, as I said, back and forth with those parries and blocks, it feels like a demon-sized boxing match, and it's just awesome. It is so much fun to do. And when it comes to the difficulty, don't worry about the parry, but you'll have plenty of freedom there to not make it something you should worry about. The cool thing is, when it comes to the shield, you're going to pair it with 3 melee weapons. You're going to either have the kind of electrocuted gauntlet, you're going to have a flail. The one I did not play with, but I've seen in other videos, looks to be almost like a chain, like barbed wire covered baseball bat kind of thing, but it looks much more demon spiky than that. I don't, it's in another video and it's not part of my footage, so I can't show you, but that's the third option. That's as much as I know specifically. The flail is going to be a little slower. Takes a little longer for the cooldown to happen for it, but when it swings through, excuse me, it hits really, really hard. The gauntlet, little more frequent uses I think you can get out of it, may not hit as hard. Both of them still feel cool though, and they're going to have different effects. If the electrocution one is a little bit more up your fancy, you're going to have a different progression that works with that, as opposed to something like the flail where it's probably bigger, stuns, that kind of thing. I have the skill trees, but I'm not going to go through all of them. That would probably be a little bit of a video in itself. But just know, you're probably going to land on whatever melee weapon feels like it feels best to you. All of them felt good because I played with the gauntlet for like the first mission. Fourth one I had the flail. Had fun with both, so I honestly don't know where I'm going to land yet. And I haven't even used the third one. So as for the guns, I don't want to get too carried away on the melees, but I do enjoy my action melee combat. But the guns feel awesome too, and you know they're going to be over the top and crazy, and they are, in a really good way. So I got to play on 4 different levels. I got the opening, as I said, kind of the tutorial with your base shotgun, not a lot of upgrades. I got the other 2 crazy levels, which we'll talk about the mech and the dragon here in a little bit. And then I got to the other level, the open one, where I had a lot more upgrades. And I think I had like 4 or 5 weapons. And I can't remember on the last one if it was like a alternate fire mode, if it was just something all on its own. But most of the weapons like take the shotgun. It is a normal shotgun mode, and then eventually when I got to that 4th level, I had a super shotgun mode. Not a lot of range, but if you're in the right range, it is all sorts of damage. And again, slower firing, bigger damage, slower reload, but if you have something up close that you just need to kind of want to delete, you can fire and everything over here is going to be gone. It's that kind of super shotgun mode as opposed to the range shotgun from Doom that you're used to. Huge, massive differences. The gun that will shatter skulls into ammunition and spread that around everywhere, just like this arc of damage in front of you, and you can just delete a bunch of enemies. You've got another weapon that looked like it launched a cannonball. I don't know if I really got to use that one. I can only really see it in the menu, but I'll try and have a clip of that in here. You have a energy gun, normal kind of rapid fire machine gun that you can use, but also the dual barrel, which would then be able to get like a shock ability if you upgrade it on enemies. And then I had another weapon that was more of like a traditional weapon, but the alternate fire was this insanely heavyweight nail gun, of which, by the way, the sound design on these weapons, really good, but the nail was like, and it was just this perfect heavyweight, you know, feels like you're firing a nail that's this long and this thick. And when the big nail would just, I swear it felt like it was going to take off an arm and staple it to a wall. but the small ones were the ones I could fire and load up this enemy, and then when they were glowing enough, that's when I could throw the shield. And if I paired it right, and you kind of get that combination together, that shield throw on that glowing enemy causes a wonderfully visceral explosion to happen. So the weapons have their own progression, as I said. So the shotgun, you're going to be able to have an option to choose, do you want an enemy to burn? If you hit them with enough shotgun cases, or shotgun shells, you can get them to burn if they're big enough. But here's the question. Do you want them to explode when they're burning? Or do you want them to drop shield pickups upon death? Which way are you playing? Fun, survivability? Next one below that. Do you want a 3-round burst? Boom, boom, boom. Or do you want low-level demons to instantly burn, and then potentially maybe you have that explosion thing on? If you shoot them, they instantly burn, and then if they die, then they explode, and you get that chain going on. I can see a lot of fun both ways, trust me. And they're really easy to swap. Like, some of these upgrades is just literally swap it back and forth. Like, once you've unlocked a tier, just swap it back and forth one way or the other, and then you're going to be good to go there. So, for me, it was honestly the fact that the alternate modes were so easy to swap to in combat made it nice to be like, hey, I've got my little machine gun shooting over. I want one of those big giant heavy nails. Switch over, and fire that thing out, do what I need to do to hit somebody for a headshot. Just the swapping mid-round gave your weapons, I feel like, a bit more life as opposed to having to just go, let me switch weapons. It's like, no, let me just switch fire modes with this thing that I've got. And then I just feel like I have even more freedom because it's less downtime of putting one weapon away, bringing one out. Those weapons feel like they have a second life when you switch back and forth between modes. For me, the weapons were all perfectly Doom visceral, but this time that little more grounded, heavyweight feel that Doom the Dark Ages just seems to have all over the place. The weapons felt the same way. Fast and frenetic when you need them to be, but also just the most heavyweight thing that you can think of firing when you want it to be that too. And I think with the progression so far that I've seen, all of this stuff will be tons of fun. So, and I think also when you come to the progression of like the Slayer upgrades that you can get, for like parries that cause a shockwave or a shield throw that can bounce to certain enemies in the right situation. I don't even know what runes do for progression, but those will probably be fun. And then also the fact that I can upgrade my weapons and my melees. There's a lot of where you start and then where you end that is going to have a mass valley in between of differences. And there's a good amount of customization. I think you're going to have a lot of fun in your own style that may play very different than somebody else, but you're both going to be able to like easily beat the missions as long as you're kind of on your guns. But you just may approach the problems in different ways, and that is totally fine. And I think that's kind of a cool thing that I've seen a lot of. A little bit more freedom, not too much choice that you get like, you know, stuck and you can't even make a decision, but also just enough freedom to be like, oh, this seems fun right now, and you go do that for a little while and you're having fun. And you may get stuck playing one weapon for a little while, but guess what? You're probably going to run out of ammo. It's Doom. Switch over to something. Oh yeah, this is awesome over here. And it's just like always switching between different types of awesome. I think that's one of the cool things about it. Now, for the other missions that I wanted to say, like, as opposed to the running and gunning and moving and strafing and blocking and parrying and all that, you've got two. One is going to be the Atlan. Picture a 30-story tall mech. Literally, if you're me, I instantly went, all right, Pacific Rim, these are Jaegers, and that's exactly what they are. You were spot on about that picture. They have the slow, big swings. There's eventually a gun that you'll get, a big Gatling gun, and you're fighting building-sized demons with a building-sized mech, and it is just an absolute ton of fun. It's a really fun change of pace. Small little story, though. I got a chance to talk to Hugo Martin, and little did I know this, he actually worked on Pacific Rim with Guillermo del Toro and helped design the Jaegers. Because as soon as I got up, I was like, all right, who loves Pacific Rim? And it was him. And it was just, as soon as I played it, I was like, that is what that felt like. First-person perspective of punching with a Jaeger against the kaiju, and that's exactly where my mind went, and it was just a ton of fun. These are not one-off. This one and the dragon levels are not one-off. Like, that's the only time you're going to see it. Apparently, they're probably peppered throughout. And I think these big mech levels probably going to have some ridiculous bosses, I'm sure. And then also the dragon levels, I'll talk about in a second, are probably going to be peppered in just enough that if you have a linear level, and then maybe a dragon level, then maybe a slightly open level, then maybe you got an Atlan level and maybe a linear, there's going to be enough variance in level style where as long as it's not overused, I think it's going to give a nice variance of pace to the game that is going to, I think, just work in its favor to not let any one type of playstyle get too boring. I mean, if you're on the highest difficulty and you're trying to do crazy things, yeah, you may be stuck for a little while. But if you're working through the game and experiencing it kind of on a continual, like, flow, you're going to have a nice variety and not always just be running and blocking and shooting the whole time, because these other modes are awesome. And when I say awesome, Cybernetic Dragon, I cannot believe when I was playing this thing, the little opening kind of clip of you getting on the dragon the first time. So you get on this thing that looks a little bit like an ugly dragon, but picture Doom. And then these like cybernetic wings pop out of the side. They have these like digital wings on the back. I don't even know how it works. I'm not arguing and I'm not asking questions. That is the biggest thing about Doom. I don't even know if it makes sense physically or otherwise, but I just don't care because it's too awesome and fun. And what I picture is Iron Man 1, where he goes supersonic and like basically blast away and is like flying through stuff really quick. The Doomslayer cybernetic fire-breathing dragon, and I'm sure that's not the technical term, does a thing where it like locks out the wings, and then all of a sudden he's like, and it just, I was like, yep, you made a dragon even more badass than I could have expected. It's really fun. The dragon will have these specific fights where like I had to fight an enemy ship that was floating in air. I had 4 of those that I had to run around and take out. And you've got different attacks that you've got to go through, and when you dodge correctly, the dragon's weapon kind of gets this supercharged moment to it, similar to way the Atlan, which I probably forgot to show or say, the Atlan, if you do like a juke at the right time, your weapon will get supercharged and you can go crazy with it too. But the dragon gets its normal smaller gun upgraded, and I was basically, I learned I could click as fast as I could, and I don't know if that will stay, but it was just like, took my gun and it was just like as fast as I could, and I just took down the cannons. Then I went to go fight the front thing, and it has like directional dodging you gotta go through, like up, down, left, and right. And then there's this eye, you gotta be really quick on the dodges to, and then if you can get your weapon, it's always like dodging to get the upgrade, and then using the upgraded weapon to take out whatever it is you're fighting. This is again where the parry or the speed of projectiles, those kind of things, you can change the difficulty. So if you're having issues, don't worry about it. But overall, you also get to see the cybernetic dragon open up like a big enemy's face, like a picture a big demon, and breathe into it like Godzilla, which is the only thing I could think of after I heard it. And that's how you finish an enemy like that. It's just awesome. But like flying around felt good. You've got health pickups as you fly around on the dragon. And then the end of that level was on foot back to normal combat, but as this like challenge arena, and I finished it in time. I was told that not as many people finished that piece as because it was a timed section. Like you could probably eventually get there, but I finished it in time. So small pat on the back for me, but it was quite a challenge because it's just an arena, bunch of enemies. You kind of got to figure out where to start to give yourself a little place to work from. The final guy in there is no joke. I was basically kiting him for a while. Finished it, got a little fist pump moment, so that felt good overall. I mean, the best thing I can say is I think the fact that you've got these alternatives to the grounded combat of Doom is going to give you a nice balance. And when it comes to difficulty, the last thing I want to discuss is just that. You can change parry window, game speed, resource values, damage to you and the enemies. Have fun in the game. I don't think anyone should judge anybody based on what, if you are having fun in a video game, that is the whole point. If parries are just not your jam, but you're good with like strafing and dodging and shooting and all that stuff, crank that parry window up, take that out of your like annoyance bag and just be like, all right, now I'm having a blast with Doom again. Cool. If you want the absolute craziest challenge, you can make this game probably ridiculously difficult. If you want to just go through, blow stuff up, see the visceral death of a lot of demons, and kind of do it on like a story mode, if you want to call it that, crank it down and no one's going to care. It's a single player campaign. Doesn't matter how you play it. But I just want you guys to know the difficulty settings like parry windows are in there. So when I mention that parries are a thing, don't worry about them, because if they give you a big parry window, probably going to take you 1 or 2 tries to, you know, deflect whatever you need to take out a ship or a tank or whatever, and then you're good to go again. So I would not worry about it. You can change the speed of projectiles. So if the big tank shot comes in, you've got a big parry window and a slow projectile, you're probably going to be fine, is my point. I think they gave some nice options in there for anybody who wants them, but they didn't completely say, hey, you have to pick these things. You can still just pick like hurt me plenty difficulty and just go. You don't have to worry about all the rest. It's just there if you want it. But if you can't tell by my descriptions and words so far, I'm really excited for this, and everything I got to play tells me I should be excited for this. Honestly, I think they found a really fun balance of active combat with the melees, the blocks, the parries, and those kind of things. The guns are still fantastic. The progression looks to really give you a lot of change in how you'll play as you progress through the game. The 30-story mechs, along with the badass dragonflight, peppered between more open levels and more linear levels. I really think this could be probably the best one in the past decade, because they put everything into it. There's no effort into multiplayer. It is just this single player campaign, as perfectly tuned and balanced as they could probably make it. And I really can't wait. So I'm extremely excited for this. If anything I said hopefully gets you excited, let me know in the comments. And if you have questions, I'm always happy to answer them in the comments as well. So my goal is to usually, if I see a question, give you some feedback. If I don't know the answer, I'll probably tell you. But if I do have, a way to maybe give you a more detailed answer about something, I'll try and do that as well. If you enjoyed this, I'm hoping to cover Doom when it comes out, whether it's a review or anything else. If you guys want to see certain coverage from me for Doom, happy to do so. But thank you guys. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more from me. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, here. Subscribe, like, follow, and all of the above. And again, if you just want to say hi in the comments, do that too. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you soon. And as you can tell, I can't wait for Doom the Dark Ages. I think it's going to be fantastic.